Upon discovering the disturbing items at the Aju mansion, after the kind young maid had shown her Sally's room, where she discovered her daughter's cherished anklet, and worse, the burnt belongings and that half-destroyed letter, Mama Njideka knew with a sinking certainty that Sally was in serious danger. She needed help, and one thing was clear: she would not leave the city until her daughter was found. She had phoned her neighbor, Mrs. Chuka, speaking with a mix of urgency and weary acceptance, to request a few changes of clothes and her essential medicines. By a stroke of luck, Mrs. Chuka had managed to flag down an Okada, sending a worn Ghana must-go bag rumbling toward the city with everything Mama had asked for. The small bundle of cash she had been saving for their bus fare back to the village would now have to serve another purpose. Lagos wasn't letting them go just yet. She paid for a cheap, run-down room in a weather-beaten hotel that smelled of mildew and forgotten stories. The curtains were too thin to keep out the noise of passing Okadas, and the rain thudded against the corrugated roof like a warning. But at least it was dry. She set her worn Ghana must-go bag down gently in the corner, then sat heavily on the sagging bed. The mattress squealed under her weight. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the beaded anklet she found and held it against her chest. But no comfort came. Her mind reeled over and over like a broken record stuck on one haunting track. The image of her daughter's burnt phone case, the charred edges of a letter never sent, the silence of a room that once held her child's laughter. It all swirled in her mind like smoke. Then something sparked. She sat up. Something Sally had said, more than once, her voice laced with excitement. "Mama, don't you read the newspaper? You need to see how this man disgraces wicked people. Big people, rich people. His name is Detective Obinna Okeke. That man doesn't fear anybody." Back then, Mama had rolled her eyes. That's how folks land in trouble. She had scoffed, by meddling in other people's business. But now, sitting in this hotel room with the weight of a daughter's silence pressing against her soul, those words rang different. Okeke, that was his name. Detective Obinna Okeke, the man who brought down senators and the untouchables, the man who exposed that corrupt police chief who murdered the famous musician. What was her name again? Rhea Rain? Yes, that was it. She remembered her daughter being fascinated with the case. Sally had clipped those articles, had read them aloud by the fire like bedtime stories for grown women. Maybe, just maybe, this detective could help her too. She had no address, no phone number, no clue where to start. But Mama Njideka was a woman on a mission, and nothing on God's green earth could stand between a mother and the truth. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but Lagos was still dripping. Gutters overflowing, bus conductors shouting, the city alive with heat and hustle. Mama Njideka tied her wrapper tight and stepped onto the road. Her first stop was the newspaper stand near the hotel. "My son, abeg," she said to the man behind the kiosk. "Do you know where the newspaper office is that ran that story on Detective Obinna Okeke?" "Obinna?" The man scratched his beard. "Detective Okeke? You mean the one who arrested that big madam that killed her husband's wife and tried to kill the child? Obiori. Zainab Obiori. Ah, that man does not play." "Yes, yes," Mama said quickly. "That one. Do you know where the office is, where they print the news?" The man gave her a long look, then pointed down the street. "It's in Alagomeji, big building with blue gates. Ask for Madame Ifeoma. She edits that kind of story." Mama thanked him 3 times and hurried off, her heart pounding like a talking drum. For hours she roamed the city's veins, from Madame Ifeoma to Bustakeke to shoe leather, until finally she stood before a faded sign that read, "National Daily Voice Editorial Office." She climbed the cracked steps, ignoring the ache in her legs. Inside, ceiling fans clacked overhead, and the smell of ink and old paper filled the air. Journalists moved like bees in a hive, tapping keyboards and answering phones. A woman in glasses looked up from her desk. "Yes, madam, can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone," Mama said. "Not a journalist, a detective, Okeki. My daughter is missing. Please, I think he can help me." The woman frowned. "Detective Obinna doesn't work here, Ma. He's not police press, but we've covered many of his cases. What's your daughter's name?" "Sally Njideka. She was working for the Aju family." The name Aju landed in the room like thunder. The woman's eyes narrowed. She hesitated for a moment, then she said, "Come with me." She led Mama into a quieter back room, offered her a chair, then picked up a landline. Within minutes, she was off the phone and writing something on a scrap of paper. "Here," she said, handing it to Mama. "This is the number of someone who can reach him. I can't guarantee anything, but you're not the first person to come here whispering the Aju name. Be careful." Mama Njideka bowed her head, her voice thick. "God bless you, my daughter." She stepped out into the blinding afternoon sun with the paper clutched in her fist like a lifeline. Now she had a name. She had a lead. And most importantly, she had hope. Mama Njideka didn't wait to sit down. She found the nearest umbrella seller's stall, borrowed a stool, and pulled out her old phone. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the small piece of paper with the number scrawled in blue biro. Her heart thudded in her chest as if it too were trying to dial. "God," she whispered, "let this man answer." She typed the number, pressed the green button. It rang, once, twice, then, "The number you are trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please try again later." Mama frowned. She looked at the paper again, checked the digits, and redialed. Still nothing. She called again and again. The phone never rang more than twice before cutting off into silence. Was it off? Blocked? Or was this how city people gave false hope? Had they seen one too many desperate village mothers walk through their office, clinging to lost children and impossible dreams? She let the phone rest in her lap and blinked hard against the sun. Then she stood and thanked the umbrella seller. But she didn't give up. That evening, Mama Njideka returned to the cheap hotel. She hadn't eaten all day, but she didn't feel hunger, only heat and pressure, the kind that sits behind your eyes and makes your head feel heavy. She tried the number one more time from her room. Nothing. She lay down, but her eyes wouldn't close. At 7:42 p.m., the phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her chest seized. She answered on the first ring. "Hello?" Her voice cracked. A calm, steady male voice came through. "Who is this? You've called this number 6 times today." "Ah, sir, please forgive me," she cried. "My name is Njideka, Mama Njideka. My daughter is missing. I was told to contact you. You're Detective Obinna Okike?" There was a pause. "I am." Mama's heart fluttered with hope for the first time in weeks. Thank you, Detective. She was working for the Aju family, Sally Njideka. She's been gone for weeks. They told me she traveled to the States, but Her breath caught. "I know my daughter. She would never leave without telling me. I found her things, burnt, hidden behind the mansion." Another pause. Longer this time. "Did you say the Aju family?" "Yes." "Detective. Text me your location. I'll come by tomorrow, 10 a.m. Then he hung up. Mama stared at the phone for a full minute. Then she exhaled, deep, ragged, trembling. Help was coming. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing for certain. She felt less alone. Detective Obinna arrived promptly at 10 a.m. Tall, sharply dressed, and unreadable behind dark eyes, he looked more like a seasoned lawyer than a detective. but there was something in the way he moved, quiet, direct, unbothered by noise, that made Mama Njideka's heart grip with both fear and hope. And they met in the dim hotel corridor just outside her room. He didn't ask to go inside. He simply nodded and waited. "Detective Okiki." "Thank you," Mama said breathlessly, stepping forward. "My name is Njideka. I know you're a busy man, but please, I need your help." He nodded once. "It's okay, Mama. Call me Obinna." She nodded. "Start from the beginning," he said. Mama took a shaky breath. "My daughter, Sally, she left the village about 4 months ago. She got a job working for the Aju family here in Lagos. Big people, very rich. She was just a maid, but she called me all the time, with one gist or the other, every day, until one day she didn't." Obinna remained still, listening. "I went to the house myself. The guards chased me away. When I finally managed to speak to Mrs. Aju, she told me my daughter had gone to the States for some opportunity. But that's impossible, sir." Her voice cracked. "My daughter can't keep a secret to save her life. If she was traveling, I would have known. She would have called the whole village." She reached into her bag and carefully pulled out a Ziploc pouch. Inside were charred remains, a burnt phone case, a shattered phone, and the crumpled remains of a partially burned letter. "I came back again. One of the staff felt sorry for me and took me inside. We found this in the back of the house, a pile of ash. This phone, this anklet, was my daughter's. She never took this anklet off anywhere, and the letter," she handed it over, her hands trembling. "I couldn't read most of it, but a few words. Something about a lawyer, about a will, something not being right." He held the charred letter up to the light. The edges were crumbling. Most of the ink had melted into shadows, but there were a few words, jagged, trembling, still faintly legible. Obinna squinted. "The lawyer disappeared. New will. Something is wrong." That was all. He lowered the page carefully. "I'll need to hand this over to a forensic team," he said. "There might be a way to recover more of the letter with light scanning and chemical treatment." Mama nodded, her voice tight. "Please, detective, anything you can do." He looked at her. "You said your daughter mentioned a lawyer in the letter. I can't make it out fully." "Yes," Mama said. "She said the man who handled the chief's affairs disappeared. And not long after that, a new will came out. That's all I know. But from what little I could make out in the letter, I think my daughter believed that the Aju lawyer wasn't real, that Mr. Aju, his barrister, and the late Chief Nwankwo's lawyer are all planning something." Obinna wrote something in his notebook. "Hopefully the forensics team will bring clarity to the letter. I need everything you remember, what Sally told you about her new job, the Aju family, anything." Mama pressed the scarf to her chest. "She used to call me every day. One gossip or the other about the family. She thought Mr. Aju was cheating. She said she couldn't say much as their phones now had software to track their calls and messages. But still she called, kept the conversations light but loaded with gist. She couldn't help it, no matter how hard I tried to talk sense into her. Then one day she stopped. No more calls." Obinna nodded slowly. "That might be all we need to start." The gates of the Aju mansion creaked open with deliberate slowness, as if sizing up its visitor before allowing him in. Detective Obinna stepped out of a sleek black sedan, dressed in a charcoal suit that matched the weight of his expression. His eyes scanned the lavish compound, all gold trim and marble pillars, before landing on the couple waiting at the entrance. Mr. and Mrs. Aju, polished, posed, but their eyes shifted just a little too fast. Obinna clocked it immediately. "Detective Obinna," Mrs. Aju said, stepping forward with a curated smile and an almost imperceptible tilt of her head. To what do we owe this unexpected visit? I'm following up on a missing persons report, Obinna replied, his tone steady. A young woman named Sally Njideka. She was employed here as a housemaid. Mrs. Aju blinked once, slowly. Yes, we remember Sally. She was last seen entering this property, Obinna continued. According to her mother, she never heard from her again. Mr. Aju gave a light chuckle, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. Detective, with all due respect, aren't you a bit above village housemaid cases? She was just staff, a common maid. You're known for bigger fish. Obinna didn't flinch. Her mother came to me distraught. One common maid to you is someone else's only child. Mr. Aju cleared his throat, shifting slightly. Mrs. Aju jumped in. Well, like I told her mother, Sally met some man who promised her a visa, said he'd take her to the States. Next thing I knew, she was gone. No goodbye, nothing. Mr. Aju nodded along, too eagerly. Obinna caught it. Mrs. Aju pressed on. Probably one of those whirlwind things. You know how village girls can be. Headstrong, eager. She left in a hurry. You didn't think to notify her family? Anyone? Obinna asked. She was an adult, Mr. Aju said flatly. We don't manage people's private lives. No forwarding address? No contact? Nothing from this mystery man? She didn't tell us much, Mrs. Aju replied, crossing her arms. And honestly, she wasn't exactly vital staff. We have a large household. Obinna tilted his head slightly. And you have no idea who this man is? Mr. Aju gave a small, amused shrug. Not a clue, detective. Obinna kept his tone casual. Do you think any of your other staff might know? Maybe someone saw him? We already asked, Mr. Aju said. No one knows a thing, not even when she left. Obinna offered a faint smile. Unreadable. Of course. A pause lingered. Then he turned to Mrs. Aju. I hear you grew up in Switzerland? She hesitated. Yes, I did. You moved there when you were what, 8? Yes. And returned 13 years later at 21? He raised a brow. 7 years ago, precisely? Yes. She glanced at her husband. So you must be fluent in German, French, and Italian. I took a bit of German myself, in university. He smiled, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. Detective, Mr. Aju cut in, suddenly tense. What do my wife's language skills have to do with our missing maid? Obinna turned slowly. So you do believe she's missing now? That's curious. A moment ago, you were both confident she was off in the States with a mysterious man. Mr. Aju straightened. You and her mother are the ones saying she's missing. We're just trying to help. Obinna closed his notepad calmly. Of course. Well, thank you both for your time. He offered a cordial nod and turned without another word, the leather soles of his shoes tapping crisply against the polished driveway as he returned to his car. Obinna sat behind the wheel of his sedan, staring out at the gate in the rearview mirror. His face was still, but his mind was moving fast. She met a man and went to the States. That didn't sit right. He tapped his pen against his notepad. Why would a girl like Sally Njideka, known for running her mouth, leave the country without telling her mother? He glanced at the evidence bag beside him. Sally's burnt phone, the partially charred letter, and the anklet recovered from under the bed in the mansion. They're lying, he thought. He pulled out his phone and dialed. DPO Adigan, a gruff voice answered. Obinna here. I need you to cross-check something urgently. Look into flight logs and immigration records for a Sally Njideka roughly 3 weeks ago. I want to know if she ever left the country. Got it, sir. And Adigan? Yes? Don't let anyone know you're looking. He hung up. His instincts were now screaming. and Obinna always listened to his instincts. Moments earlier, Mr. and Mrs. Aju had stood in silence, watching Detective Obinna's car glide past the mansion gates until its taillights disappeared into the distance. Then, without warning, Mr. Aju spun sharply toward his wife, his voice low but razor-edged. "Do you see the mess you've caused?" he growled, his eyes narrowing. "By killing that girl, you may have landed us in serious trouble." "Well, what was I supposed to do?" she snapped. "Shh! Keep your voice down. The staff will hear you." Mr. Aju scurried Mrs. Aju into the grand living room and shut the door. "What was I supposed to do, Alex?" She overheard Emeka's conversation with Barrister Eche about Chief Nwankwo threatening to go public if he didn't get more money. He said he'd expose that the will was fake. I had to take her out. We couldn't afford another loose end. And now here we are, the city's top detective, Obinna, standing in our home asking questions about your stupid maid, the same one you brought in from the village. I had to kill her, Alex. You know how much of a motor mouth she was. She would have told someone. I had to stop her. I think she did tell someone, he replied. Why else would Detective Obinna be here? She promised she hadn't told anyone. And you believed her? He barked. That chatterbox? Silence. Then Mrs. Aju whispered, It had to be done, Alex. Just then, Mr. Aju and Mrs. Aju heard their security guards shouting. Mr. Aju pulled back the heavy curtain to see Mama Njideka. His eyes narrowed. That woman is here, he said, his voice low and dangerous. The maid's mother, she's the reason the detective was here. Mr. Aju scowled at his wife. You caused this mess. Fix it, or I will. The cold look in his eye spoke volumes. She took a deep breath and looked out of the window. That night the rain had returned, soft at first, then steady, drumming against the thin hotel roof like an uninvited guest. Mama Njideka sat on the edge of her bed, twisting the hem of her wrapper. She was weary and tired and ready for bed, but still sleep would not come. Her phone lay silent on the table. Obinna still hadn't called. She hadn't heard from him since the day they first met in the hotel corridor. However, she had seen him at the Aju mansion that day, so he must have some information for her. Her funds were running out. 10,000 naira left, just enough for one more night. After that, she would have to choose. Return to the village or return to the streets. Then, a sound. A faint shuffle in the corridor outside her room. Mama's head snapped toward the door. Who could that be at this time of night, she thought. Her heart began to thump. No one knows I'm here, except Detective Obinna. No one should be visiting. The sound came again, closer. Her mind raced. Could it be the Ajus? Or is it Obinna? No, he'd call first, wouldn't he? The door handle jiggled. Mama jumped, letting out a small squeal. She grabbed her phone and tried calling Detective Obinna, but her trembling fingers froze in fear. Her chest tightened. Hello? Who is it? What do you want? Silence. No answer. Then another sharp rattle of the handle. Who are you? She demanded, stepping back. What do you want? Just the click of metal against metal. Then bam! The door crashed open, splintering at the frame. Two masked men surged inside. Rough hands grabbed her arms before she could scream. Her headscarf slipped to the floor. Her phone slid from her hand, hitting the ground with a dull thud. The men dragged her toward the door as she kicked and shouted, her voice lost in the roar of the rain. On the cold hotel floor, only her scarf and her phone remained.